What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Large Report. You know, there is a problem when an NBA coach is questioning why his team is playing despite having all of those COVID protocols. So this was tweeted out by Josh Lewenberg, and Nick Nurse asked if he wonders why they're still playing games. It's a hard question to answer. I'm always trying to be part of solutions. We've got a big problem here, not just in basketball. Leaders make decisions and you try to ride with them. Be positive and go do your job. What is up, Raptors fans? For today's video, I want to discuss something that I've been thinking about quite a bit of lately. Shout out to, first of all, Luca Rosano, who did drop a video on this as to why the league isn't doing anything despite the Raptors having so many COVID protocols. So I'm going to take a little bit of an in-depth for today's video as to why the league is doing what they're doing. And I'm also going to give you a little bit of a flashback and what this reminds me of. We're seeing history kind of repeat itself again, possibly. So if you guys want to like this video, that'd be amazing. If you guys want to hit the subscribe button, that'd be awesome as well. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on this channel. So for today's video, the shout out goes out to John J. Click. So John, thank you so much for supporting this channel through your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. And let's talk a little bit more about this whole COVID protocol going on with the Raptors and just how many players they've had out. Now, when you talk about the Raptors and the amount of players they had out, this was their starting lineup against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who also had their starters, or I should say a lot of their starters out as well. But when you take a look at both of the team's starters, I think it's fair to say even though Cleveland Cavaliers did miss some starters, for the most part, you could argue that a lot of these guys would be starting on decent amount of teams in the NBA. Whereas when you take a look at the Raptors starters, I don't think you can say without confidence that any of these guys would be starting on any NBA roster around the NBA, despite how badly they may be. Delano, Utah, Chris Boucher, and DJ Wilson, who we just signed recently, and Svi Mykhailiuk are not starters, and definitely not starters on bad teams as well. Now, this was kind of disheartening to see because the Raptors got absolutely blown out, and that wasn't a surprise because the Cleveland Cavaliers were essentially playing against G League teams. I have not even shown you the bench, but there's no point of showing you the bench. We had 8 or 9 guys ready for today's game, and it was just a real mess out there. But I want to focus your attention on something else here. And that is the fact that the Raptors had 2 games canceled against the Chicago Bulls and the Orlando Magic. Back-to-back games which we had canceled a few weeks ago. And I want to talk about this a little bit more because when we talk about the league really kind of screwing over the Raptors, we have to talk about the teams that we had games canceled against. So this was tweeted out by Adrian Wojnarowski, and Aliza Johnson tested positive on Monday, and adding a 10th to the previous 9 players out due to COVID concerns. Now, I want you to remember that number. The Chicago Bulls had 10 players out due to COVID, and I want to talk about the Orlando Magic as well, because when we talk about the Raptors, as you see there, the minimum required to play is 8 players according to Wojnarowski. Now, obviously, this was before we had those new rules that the NBA had implemented where you absolutely have to sign a player. If 2 players are in COVID protocols, you have to sign 1. If there's 3, you have to sign 2. So I want to talk about the Magic as well because that Magic game was canceled as well. Now, when you talk about the Orlando Magic has been postponed by the NBA following a COVID outbreak within the Magic organization. The Orlando Magic had 5 players in COVID-19 protocol Saturday night and another 7 players sidelined due to injury, and played 9 players against the Brooklyn Nets. So if they're able to play 9 players against the Brooklyn Nets, and Brooklyn Nets, who had 8 players going against the Raptors, who that was a crazy game because they obviously did manage to win that. But the Raptors, when you take a look at how many players they had out, now I wanted you to remember that number. Chicago Bulls had 10 players out. The Magic had 5 players out due to COVID and a bunch more due to injury. Again, those were previous to before those rules were implemented where you could sign other guys to extend your roster, but the Raptors have 10 players in protocol, including Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Pascal Precious Achiuwa, Gary Trent, Malachi Flynn, Barnes, Bonga, Champagnie, and Birch. But despite all of these players being out, the Raptors did not have any games canceled. I think it's easy to say that Magic game would have been an easy win. And now when we talk about the Raptors, guys, I want to talk about how history may be repeating itself. Now, I want you to focus your attention on here because we saw this last season. Now, highlighted those circled in red for a reason because the Raptors had lost a lot of their starters. We saw that last season when the COVID protocols hits. Now, the Rockets game, Pascal Siakam was out, and after that, we had lost majority of our starters, besides maybe Kyle Lowry and Norman Powell. And you take a look at the games that were missed. We went from being a 500 team playing really well, and we went on a very, very big losing streak and ended up being 18-30. And that really messed with our season when you think about how last season really went. Again, I don't want to focus too much on last season and talk about the Raptors would have made the playoffs because we ultimately ended up with Scottie Barnes, which was a plus. But when you talk about the Raptors this season and where they were before the Cleveland Cavaliers game, the Raptors were 14-15 and they were very close to 500. But that Chicago game was canceled. Then that Orlando Magic game was canceled as well. And this game, I believe, should not have even been played because considering that we essentially were a G League team going against some of the NBA starters, that was just a very bad game to watch, painful to watch as a basketball fan, but particularly as a Raptors fan. But I want to talk about this because when we talk about history repeating itself, as I showed you guys, the Raptors are 14-16 as it currently stands, and our schedule that's coming up does not get easier. The 76ers, the Clippers, the Knicks, all of these teams are very well capable of beating us very easily. Those are really good NBA teams we have been facing or we're going to be facing, and with all of these COVID protocols, we are expecting a few guys back this week, but even with a couple of starters, there's no way we're winning all of these games, and we're essentially going to have happen what has happened to us last season, where we're close to 500 and we go on a huge losing streak. And I really hope I'm wrong here, but I hope this doesn't turn our season around and we end up losing the season again, because out of all of these teams, even the Spurs are very well capable of beating us, but that one game that looks very winnable against the Pistons, we know Dwayne Casey absolutely goes off against the Raptors every time we face them. Even when we faced him in our championship season, he beat that Raptors team very, very easily, and he beat them many times. So it may look like a winnable game, but that one is going to be a difficult game as well. So personally, as a Raptors fan, I'm really worried because some of these games should be canceled, and they're really going to screw over the Raptors season in total. And we could be looking at something similar to what had happened last season, where we were super close to getting to 500, or we were at 500, and then that huge losing streak just kind of set our season back. So I hope I'm wrong, but what do you guys think? Do you think the NBA is screwing over the Raptors by not canceling some of these games? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I do have a trivia question for you today. And that trivia question is, in 2009, the Raptors hired some assistant coaches. So at that time, our head coach was Jay Triano. And which of these assistant coaches was not hired by the Raptors at that time? Was it A, Alex English? Was it B, Eric Hughes? Was it C, Elvin Williams? Or was it D, Rex Kalamian? Sorry if I mispronounced that a little bit. But whoever answers this question correctly first in the comments section gets a shout out in my next video. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. I do have a bonus clip for you guys as well, and it's a beautiful clip of Scottie Barnes. So I really hope you guys enjoy this video. I do want to hear from you guys though. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section below. And thank you so much for watching this video. And I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.